What do we go into now? I think we got to go into the one, Robert, that has blown my mind. The vaults seizure. I'm going to make a mistake on the parties because I forget now who seized the vaults as part of a what's it called? Not an indictment. What's the word I'm looking for? The document pursuant to which they seized.
The search warrant.
Search warrant. Sorry. Who are the parties in this case? The defendant is a private vault company. Not the defendant. I'm sorry. The object of the seizure is a private safety security box company. I don't think it's a bank because I think it's a private institution. They were the object of search warrants. I don't know if they were federal or no, it was federal. They came in and the warrant authorized the seizure of the assets of the vault company. I think it's called USPVT or something, whatever. The vault company. The warrant authorized the seizure of the assets of the vault company. The vault company is in the business of holding safety security vault boxes for their customers. The feds came in and seized not only the assets of the private vault company, which I guess would be documents, whatever that they have, but a lot of vaults of patrons. They seized the vaults. They, from what I understand of the proceedings, despite not having the authorization to do so, they seized them. They opened them. They emptied the items into something of an unidentifiable mess where you can't really even segregate itemize what was in what person's vault. After having seized it unlawfully, opened it unlawfully, and sounds like the word is confused in French, but confounded it together with other assets, they then proceeded to civil forfeiture of those assets against the owners of the vaults that were vaulting, keeping their prized items at this company. And what was it? Something like, is it $80 million worth of stuff that they seized under the civil forfeiture provisions? If I made any mistakes there, it's only on the names, I think. It's the most shocking thing I've ever read in my life. I don't care that some of these people might happen to be mobsters or whatever. That's just supposition, who hides millions of dollars in a vault in a bank. Not me. I don't have that to hide in the first place. There was poker chips, gold, jewelry, yada, yada, yada. You need to explain what civil forfeiture is to anybody who doesn't understand it before we can get into this.
Yeah, so it's a misapplication of law, and it's because Scalia actually screwed up on this case. They've carved out exceptions. I mean, you can't seize somebody's property without a whole bunch of constitutional limitations. You can't search for someone's property without a bunch of constitutional limitations, except often in the civil forfeiture context, where they've carved out exceptions that make zero sense. And they've done so for practical reasons because they wanted to help wage the war on drug dealers. And they wanted to preclude drug dealers from having the economic means of procuring good counsel. Because when they were procuring good counsel, the Roy Blacks of the world, the governments were getting exposed a lot, and these defendants were walking a lot. So it was in the beginning then is when we expanded our interpretation of civil forfeiture laws to basically allow the government to seize your stuff without, and you have to go through this difficult, onerous process to prove that you're legally entitled to it. And they know that often when they raid certain facilities, a whole bunch of people are not going to come forward for obvious reasons. They don't want to say, oh, yeah, that's definitely mine. When, let's say it wasn't on a tax return or it wasn't on a, bank statement or it wasn't on, or is it something you're not supposed to have? So that they know that and they get away with it. They get to just steal in mass. So, but this case is the most egregious, and they fought back with a very good class action because they went through all the different constitutional rights that got violated. The first is the Fourth Amendment, because the warrant itself specifically said they were not supposed to seize customers' materials. Now, the government likes to do this a lot. There's something called specificity and particularity, two constituent components of the Fourth Amendment probable cause requirements that limit the scope of warrants. And this is because I don't know if Canada does it this way, but during colonial times, you could do a general search. So you were given a search warrant to just go search this whole property, and you could search for whatever you want, and you could seize whatever you want. This was the most hated thing about the way searches were done. And this is why the Fourth Amendment not only had a probable cause limitation, but it said no more general warrants. You had to, with specificity and particularity, limit what could be searched and limit where it could be searched. Here, it was limited that they could not search even within these other safe deposit boxes, and they could not seize those items, yet they did it anyway. You're on mute. You're still on mute.
All right. I'm an idiot. No, it's not. The warrant says what it says according to the allegations, and I don't assume that the allegations are wrong on that as a matter of fact. But then it's like, okay, good. Hey, it's like, yeah, we know what it says. Now go screw yourself. We're going to do it anyhow. And by the time you get to court, it's all everything's all effed up in any case. We've got it. We've opened them. We know what you have. There may be issues of, the fruits of a poisonous tree or the spoiled fruits of the tree. If they find evidence of criminality among the patrons of this vault company, I don't know what happens then.
But what they're doing is they're forcing people to come forward. So those people are going to have to come forward and prove their entitlement to it. Those admissions can later be used against them. Even though the evidence seized couldn't, their admissions in a court filing can. This is the game they play with civil forfeiture. This is why they get away with it. I mean, I was alerted to this over 20 years ago. I was at a conference at Howard University that was filled with a lot of commies, to be honest with you. But there were some interesting people there. And some of and they brought up that this was happening systematically in rural counties in Kentucky, late 90s, that your local sheriff was figuring out, I kind of like that truck down there. Found an excuse to seize it, believing that the people connected to the truck might not be in a legal position to claim it. And so it was becoming a money-making operation for local small-town sheriffs. The feds have just taken it and applied it to a whole different scale. But the other problem is, under their Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, you're required to return property, even if you legally seized it. This is why under search warrants, you have a right to file a certain motion for return of seized properties. They're not allowed to keep it except under limited circumstances, and including a probable cause standard that they have not met yet. They're trying to force feed these people into the administrative process that requires them to make incriminatory admissions in order to try to even possibly get their property back and delay its return in the interim. And they're wisely identifying that itself is a Fifth Amendment violation because it's the retention of property. Even if they had legally seized it, they've illegally retained it. And it's a very good suit. It's brought by a public interest organization that does these kinds of Fourth and Fifth Amendment cases. Very good class action case. Very, I think it's 80 pages, something like that.
It was long, and it was long, and there was a lot of, they went over the various charges. It's just the fact pattern is mind blowing. The fact pattern is one where you say, where is my stuff safe in the context of an abusive government? Is the vault company
not a safe deposit box? There are some places, folks, but that's more for private counsel as to where and how you can keep property from snooping and sneaking eyes and stealing, thieving governments or citizens.
Yeah, or the alternative is like I
don't do it at a safe deposit box company. Not safe. Safe deposit box. Not safe.
Are these now? You have banks have vaults, and banks have safety deposit boxes. This particular object of the warrant, is it a private? It's a private company. It's not a federal company.
And are they regulated? Inviting scrutiny because hey, we got a special safe deposit box system set up that's going to have all this secrecy, and the feds are going to be looking at that right away. Never trust a mass marketed company. Mass marketed company, they may mean well, but they're going to draw the wrong attention very, very quickly.
Well, and some might say they might objectively draw the wrong clientele to begin with, where you might not be storing the same things in a bank vault that you'd be storing in this place. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing out loud.
Well, I almost bought a bank building years ago because then it would have been under attorney-client privilege because it had a huge vault that could have little deposit boxes in it. I was gonna, ended up not doing it, but yeah, I mean, it's absolutely possible that was the intention. There's allegations that a lot of storage centers do that. Because they're a popular place for criminals to stash their stuff. It's surprising. I almost represented one of the biggest alternative product distribution folks, and I was surprised at some of the methods he used that were the safest. But it does invite targets, but that doesn't allow them to do what they're doing. This is just flagrant Fourth and Fifth Amendment violations, and if they get away with this, then you're absolutely right. Nothing is safe legally from the government doing whatever they want whenever they want.
And Lil Panda says, Viva, didn't they use two different police? One threw everything on the floor, other walks in and says, wow, I need to seize this, so only one police gets the slap. I don't know that detail enough, Robert. Do you know?
Well, we only know some of the details because right now we only know the details from the government's version of events because we don't know actually what took place inside the seizure. We just know how the police reported it.
What's amazing to me is that the police, they opened the vault boxes, they intermingled the stuff, and then they civilly forfeited it. I mean, civil forfeiture is a shocking concept. I never knew of it until I started doing this, and everyone's like, Viva, what do you think of civil forfeiture? We have something like it out in Canada. I've never seen it in practice because I never did criminal in the first place, never saw it in civil. It's shocking, but $80 million of stuff just seized. And now if some of it is the fruits of questionable practices, come forward and claim it. And well, just let us know where you live and what your social security number is right there. Oh, shocking. Okay, so well, we'll see where that goes. I mean, it's what's going to happen. The defendants are fighting with taxpayer dollars, and even if they lose, they pay out with taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, but it would be key to get constitutional protection and constitutional remedy. They're not really seeking damages as much as they're seeking return of the property and the precedential establishment that they can't do this in the future. So that's I think, that the key aspect, and it does often matter. I mean, I brought the biggest Bivens class action against the IRS in its history when they did something kind of similar. They seized 60 million medical records of more than 10 million Americans, including Screen Actor Guild, Writers Guild, Directors Guild, Major League Baseball players, every judge in the state of California. These were records that had, people would be surprised that what Obama's digitization of medical records might have had another intended benefit, which is, let's say you want to know what Woody Allen sold his shrink last week. Those records, those kind of records, let's say hypothetically, might have been in there. So but I brought a big class action to fight it when no one else had. Everyone else had just said, you can't do anything about it. They had been doing this systematically for 2 years, the time I brought the suit. But we got a couple of congressional investigations, big media coverage. They folded, capitulated, returned all the records, deleted any evidence that they had of it. And some of the key personnel involved got moved to some very undesirable locations before they resigned. So they joined the Barnes former employee resignation list. But so it often has benefits. So I think it's fantastic that they're bringing the case, and by golly, I hope it wins.
And we got J-Bet says they recorded the old lady's gold coins as miscellaneous, disgusting. Now, everyone, this is a metaphor, the term being used. Thumbs up, everyone. Viva and Barnes are incinerating the deep state. Incinerating. Did I mention incinerating? I hope that doesn't get it. Metaphor, non-literal.